Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am back. What is up? Feel like it has been so long since I have been on this channel because it has been. I am very sorry about that. I've been very busy these last couple of months. I am a dance teacher and our studio had our end of the year performance over the last couple of months, as well as I've had family in town, I've been out of town, I've had rehearsals, I've had just so much going on. So obviously because of that, I have not been able to film, and I've only read 3 books both in May and in June. So it's been kind of very busy, but you know what? That's okay, because sometimes life is like that, you know? Life is sometimes like, you know, where you don't always have the ability to read or to film. And so I'm hoping being the key word, that this summer I will be able to make more videos. I do have a couple of videos that I do want to make even this week. I want to make books that are my favorites so far this year, because we are officially halfway through the year, which is insane to me. But for now, let's just go ahead and jump into this video. So normally for these types of videos, I do a what I bought and what I read, but because I'm doing 2 months here, I am not going to do that. I am only going to do what I read for these last couple of months, because I feel like this video would be way too long if I tried to do both months in terms of the books I got. Not to mention, I don't really remember what books I got in May and what books I got in June, and I just feel like it'd be way too confusing, so I'm not gonna do that. Like I said, I have 3 books that I read in May, 3 books that I read in June, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started with my May reads. Alright, so the first book that I finished in the month of May was actually a NetGalley arc that I received, and that is The House at the River's Edge by Rachel Burton. And this is actually a historical fiction book, and this was a 5-star read for me. I'm just gonna put this out now. I loved this. This is one of my favorite books of the year so far, and it's probably gonna be a top contender for my all-time favorite read this year. So it is actually a dual timeline type of book, which I have come to love those. Anytime there is a dual timeline or multi-timeline, I am like all about it for some reason. I don't know why. It just like is such a fun book to read. But the 2 timelines are, it's 1997, and there is a woman who is grieving the loss of her dad, and also within the last years her husband, and she has reluctantly decided to help her mom move in to this house in, I think, London, maybe. Sorry if you can hear my dog. Somewhere in that area, and kind of renovate this property that has been in her family for years. And she has found out through this renovation, she has found a photo of her grandfather with somebody that she does not know and has never met. And the other timeline is actually the story of the people in that picture and that friend group, which is taking on around World War I. Like I said, love this book. I don't normally gravitate towards historical fiction, and I need to pick up more historical fiction, because every time I read historical fiction, I love it. I always enjoy it. I don't know why I always am hesitant to pick it up, because I always enjoy it when I do. So anyway, what I love about this book in particular is just how beautifully tragic it is. And I know that sounds weird, because it is, but the fact that we have this beautiful story going on during the World War I timeline. It's about 2 people coming together, and then things beyond their control, honestly, just like not giving them the love story that they deserve. And that's about as much as I can say without spoiling everything, because obviously we know wars are just horrible things, and they do so much damage, not only physically but mentally, to people. And it's just something that was just so fascinating to read about. I don't know if fascinating is the right word, but reading about the person who had to go and be a part of World War I, hearing like how he was and like what he had to go through, even if we aren't getting like the gruesome details of it, we could kind of figure it out just from like the history and what we know about World War I. It really makes you feel for not only him but also the people around him, and like it was so like, I'm surprised I didn't cry, honestly. But yeah, I definitely think that this could bring you to tears if like you were wanting something very emotional. But it was also interesting to read about the 1997 timeline and the story of this woman just trying to become her own person and trying her hardest to just kind of make a name for herself and not be in her mother's like grip. That was something that I also really enjoyed, because it was just so like amazing getting to see this woman like really break out of her shell and to stand up for herself and to be able to like kind of be like, no, this is what I want. So yeah, highly recommend this book if you love historical fictions, especially ones that have multiple timelines about it and are centered around things like family and memories and things like that. I would totally recommend this. This is my favorite NetGalley arc to date, and when I finished this, I immediately got the physical copy of it because I needed it, and I will probably want to reread this a million times. And I just think that this is a fantastic book, and I think that more people need to read it. And Rachel Burton is an amazing writer, and I'm hoping to read more of her books in the future. So yeah, highly recommend. Great way to start off May. All right, so then it took me a while to finish another book in the month of May because, like I said, May and June were just so busy for me. But I did finally finish another book, and that was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is the first book in I think it's a 5-book series, maybe 4 or 5 book series called Truly Devious. It's a YA thriller mystery series, and this follows Stevie. So it follows a girl by the name of Stevie, who is this true crime junkie that gets accepted to this very prestigious invite-only academy, and she knows the history of this academy because back in the 1930s, the founder of this place had something tragic happen to him, and it kind of has given this place just a very eerie feel. And when Stevie is there, a case basically falls into her lap. And what's kind of centered around this kind of place is this letter that was given to the original founder when this tragic thing happened by somebody named Devious. And it was signed Truly Devious, hence the name of the book. And I always love a whodunit, true crime type of book. Obviously, because I love that in like other media as well. I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, and as well as like other like crime shows like Castle, NCIS, CSI Miami, all that kind of stuff. And I do also watch a lot of true crime videos on YouTube. And so anytime I get this in the book, it really just takes me back to my roots of like what else I like. And you know, I've always just loved like the idea of a mystery to be solved. That's always just been something that I've just really, really enjoyed. So this was like right up my alley. I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. I can't remember what I gave it. I think I gave it a 4-star review. It was like 4 or 4.5. I remember really enjoying it though. I thought that it was really good. I'm really excited to read the next book. I do have it. I got it almost immediately after I finished this because I needed it. And yeah, thought it was a really great book. I cannot wait to kind of see where the rest of this series goes, because the ending of this book definitely makes you question a few things and makes you like, what's gonna happen next. So yeah, totally recommend this book, especially if you're wanting something that's like YA mystery thriller. that is just fun, but also like will like keep you interested and want to keep reading. I definitely would recommend this. Right, and then I wrapped up my month of May with an audiobook, because audiobooks are the fastest way that I am able to read. I think it's just because I'm able to just sit in my bed or just take it wherever I want, because I have the app on my phone, and you know, it allows me to read it a lot faster. So when I was going to visit my sister who lives out of state, I did have quite a bit of time in the car, so I decided to start listening to Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, which is a cozy fantasy that I've heard a lot about, and I thought that this was pretty good. I definitely was excited to read it. I don't know, when it comes to cozy fantasies, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them, because there's just such a fine line between like it being cozy and it being boring. And honestly, what's crazy is that usually my issue with cozy fantasies is that they become boring, but honestly, the issue that I had with this book is that I wished it was actually more cozy. I felt like, so this book actually is about this couple named Raina and Kyanthi, is I think how it was pronounced. I can't remember. But I think it was pronounced Kyanthi, or Chianthi, something like that. And they were both involved in like the kingdom, and I think it was Chianthi that had like magical powers, and you know, they decide to basically leave their life behind, basically go on the run, because they want to spend their life together and own a coffee shop / bookstore and just live their life in peace, basically. And obviously with a concept like that, it's very reminiscent of Legends and Lattes, and I thought that book was fine. It was like not great, but I didn't hate it by any means. And this book definitely was very similar to that, only I do feel like there was more action and there was definitely more going on in terms of like, you know, like the life surrounding the girls, and like how like they couldn't just leave it behind and then nobody would bother them. And I do kind of wish we had just more moments of just them being together and just them being like just running their bookstore and coffee shop, spending just, I don't know, I just wanted something that just felt more cozy. And I felt like this was good, but it definitely was like not really what I was wanting. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read this, so forgive me if this is not the best review ever, but yeah, I feel like if I remember correctly, I gave this a 3.5 maybe? Maybe I gave it a 4. I don't think so. I think I just gave it a 3.5 though. So it was good. I would definitely recommend it to people, because I do think it is a very good book. I did love both Raina and Chianthi. I thought they were both really great characters. I loved their dynamic. I loved their relationship and everything like that. But at the same time, I just felt like I wanted more of them, not so much of what was going on around them. All right, those are all the books that I read in the month of May. Now let's go ahead and talk about the books I read in the month of June. Now, one of these I do not have a physical copy of, because I read it as an ARC, so I'm just going to talk about it and just know that it is actually out today, actually, so you can go and get it yourself. So just know that you will not see the book here. I was thinking about maybe going and getting a physical copy, but I don't know if I'm actually going to, and I'll explain more of why that is once we get to that book. But yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into the books that I read in June. So the first book that I read in June is the Nantucket Restaurant by Pamela Kelly. And this is a book that just released within the last couple of weeks. It originally started out as an ARC for me, but then it came out when I was reading it, so I decided to get the physical copy of it and finish it that way. I finished it in audiobook form, actually, because I just wanted to get it done closely-ish to the release date. So yeah, so this is about 3 sisters, Mandy, Emma, and Jill, and they are three sisters that live pretty different lives, and their grandma, their Nana, passed away, and they found out that their Nana was actually a silent owner of their favorite restaurant in Nantucket, and she now has like a kind of, I don't know what the correct wording is, but she basically tells the girls in her will that they have to work at this place for a year together before they're allowed to do anything with the restaurant. They're not allowed to sell it, buy it, do anything with it until they've worked at this restaurant for a year. And it's basically their story of the girls, you know, running the restaurant, kind of learning about how everything goes when it comes to running this restaurant, as well as their personal lives. All three of them have different things going on. They all are going through quite a bit, and honestly, I feel like what's interesting about this book is that it's very much a slice of life, not much going on, very character driven type of book. And honestly, there have been other books like that, but that have been just so slow and so boring, and I've not liked them at all. But for some reason with this one, I actually really enjoyed it. I did give it 4 stars because it wasn't like the most amazing book ever. And I do kind of wish there was a little bit more going on. But I think what was interesting is the fact that in all 3 like perspectives, we were like all still very much rooting for each sister, and we were wanting the best for them, and you know, we still cared about them, and I felt like that was just something that was just really, really important, especially with how character driven this book was. Like, obviously we needed to care about these characters, and I felt like I really did. And like I said, it's not the most exciting book in the world, but it is definitely, it was like, this is the cozy that I was wanting with Tea and Spell Trees and Without Tea. This is what I was honestly wanting. Like, yeah, stuff was going on in their lives, but we were still very much focused on like the restaurant. And here's the thing, the food, I'm not even into seafood at all, but the food descriptions in this book made me so hungry. And I was like, I would never try these like foods ever, because I am the pickiest eater ever, but part of me is now wanting to, simply because of the descriptions in this book. What is happening? When it comes to critiques, I do have a couple. The biggest thing is that I do wish that there was a dedicated chapter for each sister, because I feel like it was just so hard, because I believe that this is written in 3rd person, so because of that, the focus on each sister was like changing throughout the chapter itself. So it became very hard for me to kind of figure out who was who. Like, wait, which sister is this? Like, is this one or is it this one? It wasn't until like honestly like the very, very end where I was like, oh, this is what's going on with this particular sister. But for a good chunk of the book, I was like, wait, what sister is this? Who are we talking about here? So I do kind of wish that we had like a dedicated chapter for each sister instead of it constantly changing throughout the chapter, if that makes sense. You know, and like I said, I do kind of wish it was like a little bit more exciting. I wish it was like there was a little bit more going on, but honestly, I still thought that this was really good. If you're wanting something cozy, very slice of life, very like character driven, I definitely would recommend this. I think that it is a great story for that. It's definitely a very good palate cleanser book. And like if you are, after you've read like a very like difficult book, like either it was because it was really complex, high fantasy, or it was just really something that was just very, you know, had a lot of hard subjects or anything like that, I feel like this would be a really good book to read after that, just to give yourself a moment to breathe and just relax, because this is definitely a book for that, for sure. So yeah, definitely would recommend this book. Like I said, I think I gave 4 stars, and yeah. All right, the next book that I read, which is the last physical copy that I have, is when I was coming home from being out of town for a few days, I decided to start an audiobook on the plane, and I ended up finishing it a couple of days later, and that is The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. So this book follows Jake, who is living in, I believe, Toronto, Ontario, and he has a very eclectic uncle. His uncle is very much into like spirits, and you know, he owns a kind of otherworldly shop, and you know, it's just very like just a very eclectic guy. That's the best way that I can describe him. And you know, Jake has had, you know, moments in his childhood where he is afraid of, you know, the monsters in the closet, like we all kind of have. You know, sometimes our brains just do weird stuff. And this book is mostly focused on like the relationship between Jake and his uncle Calvin, as well as just like the idea of like memories and like just kind of not fears, but just like how fears develop over the course of your life, and how it goes from being monsters under the bed to, you know, something way more complex. To be honest with you, when I first got this book, this is a book that I've been wanting to read and wanting to have for a really long time, and I'm glad I finally got to read it. But I was expecting like, you know, kind of a Scooby-Doo gang going to solve mysteries kind of thing. And yeah, we kind of get that, but not in the way that I was wanting. It's definitely more fiction than it is like thriller, mystery, or horror, which is kind of what I was wanting when I picked this book up. But I'm not gonna say that it's bad. You know, I still think it was, you know, a really fun book. It's just not what I was wanting. You know, it's just not what I was wanting. I was wanting something spooky, and instead I got something that was just kind of heartwarming and, you know, more emotional, which is again not a bad thing, but it was just not, this isn't what I wanted, you know, when I picked this book up. So yeah, but it is nice and short, so I can't really complain about it. I did give this 3.5 stars, so take that one as you will. So if you're wanting something that's like more spooky, ghost hunting, this is definitely not it. But if you're wanting something that has ghost hunting, but is also talking about relationships and memories and more emotional things, then I would pick this book up. All right, then the last book that I read, I actually just finished it late, a couple of nights ago, and that is Coffee Shop in an Alternate Universe. Like I said, it's releasing today as I am recording this, so on July 1st. It is officially out in the world today, but I did read it through NetGalley as an ARC. This book is about two girls by the name of Kat and Brenda. Brenda lives in what we know as our Los Angeles, you know, where it's dry and there's, you know, earthquakes going on all the time, and there's just, it's very bland and dull. And she is very much a go-getter. She has this thing called the plan, where she is, you know, kind of mapping out her future, and she is applying for a scholarship, and she needs somewhere with internet, and she decides to go into this coffee shop that just kind of feels off, but she doesn't really pay attention to it. And at this coffee shop, she meets Kat, who they both just immediately have this like instant connection, and they decide to go on a date. And through the course of the book, we find out that Kat is actually living in an alternate universe that actually has magic. And honestly, the relationship between Kat and Brenda was the cutest thing. I loved their relationship. I loved how sweet they were. And it was just a very, like, just fun thing. And I also really loved the idea of like there being like an alternate universe with like the magic system. But of course it's never that simple, because of course there's, you know, people out there that are wanting to kind of like ruin what, you know, what's going on and make things worse. I thought that this book was really, really fun, and I thought it was a really great read for Pride Month, because even though I'm not a part of the LGBTQ community, I definitely enjoy reading books that, you know, are about those people, and, you know, I feel like it helps me really know kind of like who they are and kind of what they're all about. And I don't know, this one was just kind of fun, because it wasn't just about two girls that were just, you know, falling in love with each other. There was also this whole other part about, you know, the magic system. And I also really loved the side characters. Like Brenda's friends and her dad, and as well as Kat's, you know, dad, and it was just such a fun time to read, and I just thought it was really fun. I do have a few critiques about it though, and that is the third act. God almighty. Honestly, the third act is what's kind of keeping me from wanting to immediately go out and pick this book up in physical form and like reread it, because there was just something about it that I'm obviously not going to talk in detail here that just really just did not sit well with me. I don't know, I just felt like it was just not the ending, like not the whole third act, but there was just like few parts that I was just like, did we really have to put this in there? And if you know, you know. Like, did we really have to do this out of all the things you could do? Like, this is the direction you decide to go? I don't know. It was just, I didn't like it. I don't like the direction that it took. I just felt like it just wasn't necessary. And I don't know. Not to mention the fact that the magic system for me personally was sometimes kind of hard to follow, because it's a lot more technical, I feel like, and a lot more technology based than I feel like a lot of other magic systems that I've read about. So because of that, and me not being the most techie person out there, it was just kind of hard to sometimes know what they were talking about. Like, I could understand it to a degree, but at the same time I also felt like, I was also like, wait, how does this work? What are we doing here? Not to mention the fact that they also are fighting something called the Order, and I felt like the Order itself, they were more talked about than they were like shown, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, yeah, they kept talking about the Order over and over and over and over again, but we really didn't get to see the Order in action, you know what I mean? Like, it was just this thing that they were wanting to fight, but it's like we really didn't get to know much about it, and like, why? Like, we did, but we didn't. I don't know. I just felt like they could have been a much more active part in this story. I felt like we could have seen more of them and maybe kind of I don't know. I just wish that they were a more active part of the story instead of just something that they talked about over and over and over again. So that's just me. So that is all of the books that I read both in May and June. I do promise that for the month of July, I'm going to go back to how I normally do this. And so next month, I will be able to hopefully do a what I bought and what I read like I normally do, and I will only have to do 1 month instead of 2. So yeah, thank you guys all so very, very much for watching. I'm so excited to be making videos again. Like I said, I do have one that I'm hoping to make sometime this week. And I will hopefully be able to get that uploaded sooner rather than later. And yeah, I am officially a little over halfway through my reading goal. My goal is to read 52 books this year, and I am at 27 now. I am like over halfway at the halfway point of the year. I feel like that is a very good kind of number to be at. So anyways, guys, thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Get down, get down, get down.